Welcome to the Small Talk Podcast. I'm Mike Smallegan with the Smallegan Real Estate team. Today we're joined by Chris, who started Noodlepig, and we're going to talk about all things Noodlepig. So thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell me what your role is here at Noodlepig.
So I wear many hats. I'm first a ramen addict.
Okay.
But I'm also the owner. I'm also the executive chef. I'm the plumber. I kind of wear, again, like multiple hats. I started the company, and but it's interesting because I'm also not only the owner, but I'm also the chef with all the recipes and the ones. And so I'm in the kitchen a lot, but it's also I'm running payroll. I'm doing HR. I'm kind of all of it right now.
Figuring out leverage, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though. But yeah, I wanted a challenge, and here I am. So.
Okay. So what inspired you to start your restaurant here?
Yeah, so a couple of different things. So I have a background in culinary. I went to culinary school as an adult, returning back during that last recession, 2008, 2009. I was in sales and marketing, and then the world was crashing. They let me go, and I ended up going back to school for culinary. I loved food. But then I didn't really do a whole lot. After I graduated, I had a small company I started, but then I ended up selling that pretty quickly. I started teaching classes. I taught mixology classes and culinary classes. And then during the pandemic, I turned everything inside. So I went all online. So I turned my kitchen into my wife was so nice to let me just run cameras everywhere, but
Sure.
I turned my kitchen into a studio, and I went online, and I was actually really busy. I was doing like 3 or 4 of these a week.
Okay.
Of these fun classes. But then, and during that time, for the last 15 years, I was running a sports club called the Sport and Social Club, where we organized sport leagues for 21 and up adults. And
Sure.
It was like 1 hour of
Definitely
sports,
heard of it.
4 hours of drinking. Is a lot of fun. Yeah. So I love that social aspect of everything. So, but then I had an opportunity during that pandemic to really reflect and figure out what I want to do. We got shut down twice. And I thought, well, geez, maybe this is now a good time for me to step down from what I was doing there and start a restaurant. So Noodlepig really checks off a bunch of boxes for me. I can pair my business side with my culinary side. We're mission driven. And so for every bowl of ramen that we sell, 3 hungry kids are fed.
Okay.
1 here locally, 1 nationally, 1 abroad. And we do
That's
that.
awesome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, we do that by tying into 3 specific charities. And literally went to those guys and said, hey, look, how much does it cost to feed one of your kids through your organization? They give me a number, I plug it into my pro forma. And then within my budget, it's like actually coming off my COGS, which is cost of goods sold. So what that means is that I'm building that into the cost of like what it costs, along with the cost of like the noodles and the soup and what it takes to build the actual bowl. It's baked into the bowl cost. And that comes off the top before we start paying the other expenses like payroll or the electricity and the rent. So, and I thought that was really important because I wanted my family to be involved as well. And that checks off another box. I can have a place and home for my kids to start working, family-friendly environment. But I wanted to, everybody wants to leave their legacy behind, right? And I wanted to be able to work hard, but then, wake up every morning and feel excited about what I'm doing. And I wanted to work for something that was bigger than just me. And so that mission was really important to have that in the forefront of the company, within the business model itself. And because we're very upfront with it, we're asking our guests to be a part of that.
I think
mission.
people like to support things like that, right?
I
giving
think
back.
So. I think so. And I think a lot of people innately want to help, right?
Yeah.
But they just don't know how to do it. And they're like so busy, and then they get overwhelmed. They're like, oh, geez, there's so many things because the world needs help in so many different ways. So like you get overwhelmed, going, okay, I don't know where to start. You get fatigued, you fatigue out. So I learned, from watching Bamba.
I was actually just thinking that. When you said giving back for every bowl sold, their thing is give back socks. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Buy one, get someone else gets one. Same with shoes. Tom's Shoes, I think, does the same thing. So I'm not really reinventing the wheel. I'm just kind of
adding it to noodles.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm taking a play out of their playbook and then going, yeah, that's great. Because it's something that people could digest easily and understand.
Yeah.
So if I can say, hey, for every bowl, 300 kids are fed, great. Then they go, oh, okay, I get it. And of course, I would be lying to you if I said, oh, I don't want that. It's definitely like what am I trying to say? It's definitely, if someone's out there they have 15, 20 bucks to spend on lunch or on dinner, and we're one of the options, of course, I want maybe the tipping balance to be like, oh, well, we get to feed some hungry kids this way. And if they're feeling philanthropic, that it maybe brings more people into the noodle shop. But I mean, ultimately, that's more the icing on the cake. What I really want people to do is just come because our noodles are awesome.
Great, right?
They're rocking. Yeah.
Okay.
So with that being said, I dedicate. I'm really dedicated to the craft of ramen making, and I don't think that there's a lot of ramen shops.
Not locally.
Yeah, that actually do it the way you're like the traditional, the authentic way of making ramen.
Okay.
So what I do is I take the craft seriously, but I'm also weaving in a bit of American flair, right? So it's Midwest meets Japan a bit. So I have some traditional flavors. I also have some fusion flavors that I have on the menu, which makes it a lot of fun. And with like ramen, it can be interpreted in so many different ways. And knowing that I have that leeway to have fun with it. I have that open, like blank canvas. I get
It's your canvas here, right?
Yeah. So
where'd you go to culinary school?
I went to Grand Rapids Community College.
I heard a lot of really good things about their program.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's last time I checked, it was like ranked like 40th or something in top in the world.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that sounds like maybe that's not great, but it's like we're beating out.
Oh, it's huge. The world's a big place, and to be 40 in the world,
gosh, yeah.
I think is pretty cool.
Beating French culinary schools, and
yeah.
And I when I was at school there, I realized that there's a number of students that were coming in from Chicago or New York, and they were going to the Cordon Bleu. They initially started on the Cordon Bleu, which has a good name, but they're like, oh no, man, they're like, there's so many students, you don't really get a lot of one-on-one time with the instructor, or not a lot of cooking time. It's just more instruction in a textbook, out of a textbook, because there's so many students. So then they came to GRCC Sakya Institute of Culinary Education, and they're like, this is way better. And because we're an accredited school, and then we have we're like one of the on the short list of how many culinary schools in America. Like we're right up there. Like we are, and for being a community college,
yeah.
Holy crap. I mean, I think we're the first accredited in brewery, beer making, which makes sense for Beer City USA. But just to give you like another idea, like the caliber of culinary instructors that we have are top notch. So, for example, we have a master pastry chef that's on part of that faculty there, and they stole him years ago from Amway Grand Plaza. There's only, I think, 4 in the United States.
Wow.
4 or 5. We have.
And we got them in here in Grand Rapids.
So we have this amazing culinary school in our backyard, and so I took advantage of it. I'm like, great, I'll go back there. I don't need to go too far, and it was great. And so in going back as an adult, I was able to really, focus. I was like, either I'm going to be here to absorb as much as I can, or I should be at home with my family, or I should be out making some money, working. It's one of those 3 options. So when I was there, I'm like, I'm focused, and it was different than when I was in my undergrad, when I went to school right out of high school, going into college. It was a different approach. So, but that allowed me, humbly, but also very, I was very fortunate to graduate top of my class. I was valedictorian for my graduating class, won some fun awards. It was just a great experience. So, after that, that's maybe why they invited me to come back and start teaching some nighttime classes there. And then
at culinary school.
At culinary school, yeah. This is more for like the nighttime. It's called GRCC Cooks program for like the date nights and things like that. Where you sign up with your wife or your loved one or a friend or whatever, and you do the wine and dine. Those were a lot of fun, and I love that because I loved it to educate and show people like the magic tricks. Once you learn the trick, then you're like, oh, it's that aha moment. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. That's how you do it. And showing them those few little tricks makes them even more, stronger in the kitchen. And I love that. That's great. Mm-hmm.
So everything that you learned through culinary school, like what's like one of the best things here that you would say is like you took from learning at culinary school and maybe one of your fusions?
Yeah, well, so I think the biggest thing is just, there's a number of things, I guess, that I learned, but 2 things I'll just mention. One thing I learned, and I was really interested in, is food science. What happens in the pan, and why does it do it that way?
Sure.
What's the chemistry that's going on behind this? Pair that with just understanding how to standardize a recipe and the importance of that. I love that business side of things to understand. So what I mean by standardized is meaning like I don't just have like a recipe that says, oh, a pinch of this and a part of that. I don't even have cups and teaspoons.
Okay.
Everything's weighed out by grams.
Okay.
So it's everything's dialed in. So I could take a recipe and if I have it dialed
Duplicate
in,
it.
Yeah, well, I can do a 100-time batch of this.
Yeah.
And make a bigger batch of it, and it'll be the same quality as the smaller batch, right?
Sure.
So that's really helpful, especially in a restaurant where we're making larger batches of stuff. But then the food side really helps me tweak and continue to improve what we have. For example, when it comes to with ramen, the difference in the noodle versus any other kind of soba noodle is that we alkaline the water that we use to make the ramen, and I use a couple different type of.
So the water is exactly the same every time.
Water's exactly the same time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I use a ratio of potassium chloride and sodium chloride to alkaline the water. And understanding those two elements are completely different. They do different things to the actual noodle. So understanding what they do will allow me to, and then I can rock that ratio, 7 to 1 or 7 to 3 or 8 to 2 or whatever I do. That will change the outcome on the noodle, and knowing that helps me put out a really solid noodle.
So how many pounds of noodles are you making on a week?
Pounds of noodles, I never really, I guess, weighed out the pounds. I think.
Okay.
Well, when it comes to we have 50-pound bags, and we'll go through, that are delivered. And we only use non-brominated, non-bleached flour. We'll go through maybe, I don't know, 5-6 of those a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So so we're cranking noodles.
Be interesting to see what happens in a year, right? How many bags of flour you go through in a year.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And now because we have a machine, we make the noodles in house.
Yep.
I imported a noodle machine from Japan because there's no noodle machine that's in America that can withstand the pressure that it takes to build these noodles, because the hydration level of our noodles is at 30%. And so that's basically, to give you an idea of, it's like really stiff Play-Doh. It's not like the type of soft dough that you making in Italian pasta.
Sure.
I broke 5 of these pasta machines, those home machines that you stick to your KitchenAid machine mixer. When I was working on the recipe at home, I broke 5 of these things because they just couldn't handle that crank. So I did source one out of Japan that came, and that thing's working great. So, but I imagined, it's really underutilized. We could be making noodles for other restaurants if we wanted to. And I'm also thinking about how I can get into retail. So we can make maybe noodles that are so raw that just need to be boiled off.
Yeah.
Package them for people to take home and play around with on their own. They want to make ramen at home, or maybe even make a stir fry or whatever, that we could maybe package some fresh noodles for them. That's made right here in Grand Rapids.
I think that'd be awesome. I think there's a lot of that. We had Super Blooms, was that, at the Lions Club, and she actually grows all of her own herbs and everything in containers, and she sells them to local restaurants. And I think that'd be a good thing to have. Like, noodles are in a lot of different dishes, spaghetti, ramen.
Right. And we can do almost anything. And what's cool about
that.
our machine is that we can make any recipe. You can always develop a recipe for somebody as well.
Okay.
I had ideas like St. Patrick's Day is coming up. I thought, what we could do is I could take pumpernickel flour, like some really dark rye, and turn that into a noodle.
Okay.
Make a Guinness-based broth, and throw some corned beef and some cabbage and all this. So in my mind's like, we could totally make ramen.
Man, you could sell that for sure.
That'd be fun. I'm getting hungry thinking about it too, because I love a good corned beef stew. But so we could do almost anything on that machine. Again, it's underutilized. It's not being used right now. As you can see, we'll make noodles 3 days out of the week.
Okay.
We'll be in there cranking some noodles for about half the day. So but we could be. Eventually, I think that the thing will be nonstop. Be working.
Yeah, especially when you outsource those noodles.
Hopefully. Yeah, exactly.
So what's the most popular dish here at Noodlepig?
So we have 7 signature bowls.
Okay.
And right now, the top seller is the Zesan Tonkotsu Ramen. And that Zesan means the ultimate in Japanese.
Sure.
The coolest. So, and really that was the first one I developed that was a fusion bowl where Japan meets the Midwest.
Okay.
So it has a lot of umami-ness and a lot of toppings that are familiar in a Japanese ramen dish. But I also swapped some things out. So instead of like chashu pork, I use braised pork shoulder, and I put some melting cheese in there. And then I also use bacon and butter and to build up this base, which is a lot of fun. I even throw sake in there and a bunch of fun stuff in there, carrots, and you'll actually see all that stuff in there, from carrots to apples to ginger, and it's a great pairing, I think, between what I've grown up in the Midwest having, those nice warm bowls of chicken soup that you think of, meeting Japan. So that's the top seller. Close second is the kare, which I call the katsu kare. It's a famous, actually, two famous Japanese dishes that they will sometimes pair together called katsu kare, which is tonkatsu breaded pork cutlet with tonkatsu sauce, paired with a Japanese curry rice. And I took in the curry and I turned that into a soup, and it's paired with some fun toppings, including tonkatsu that goes on there. We make our own tonkatsu sauce in-house.
Wow.
That thing's pretty killer. They're all awesome though. I have some like traditional ones, miso, shio, shoyu. Those are all really traditional ones. I have a pork pasole ramen. I have a pasole ramen dish, which is Mexico meets Japan, and it's a legit.
Lots of fusion going on.
Yeah, I mean it's a legit pasole soup that we just pair it with ramen noodles, and it turns out it's awesome.
So besides coming into the store or the restaurant here to pick up noodles, do you offer like through DoorDash or any of those services?
Yeah, it's funny you ask that. So I just turned DoorDash on.
Okay.
So yeah, we're on DoorDash now. You know, we're gonna see how that works.
Yeah.
We can through our website though. We can offer online takeout too. So
Okay.
if someone wants to take out, we've been already getting those orders through our website as well. And we can also turn on our own personal deliveries too. But no, the cool thing about our area here in Grand Rapids is that we are in the social district. So we got our liquor license. So we have beer, wine, sake, as well as, no one else is doing this that I know of. We also have boozy boba cocktails.
Oh boy.
Because we serve also, we're a boba tea shop as well. My kids were like, Dad, you got to put boba tea on the menu. So we have a full-on boba section.
Okay.
And that's fantastic. But I thought, well, you know, we need something for the adults too. Like the adults love boba teas, but I thought, since we have a liquor license, what can we do to pair the two? So I came up with a nice long list of some fun ideas for boozy boba cocktails.
Wow.
And they're really fun. So, but what I was saying is that we are in the social district, so we have that extra permits. So we can slap a sticker on there, and you can enjoy the festivities out along the river. You could take the alcohol with you and just be drinking on the street here. It's a lot of fun. We'll have outdoor seating come in the summer.
Nice.
So it's a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Spectrum's coming in. I think that's really going to help kind of bring more people to this area. And
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the North Monroe District area is really, really solid. It's continuing to grow. You know, they say that the North Monroe Business Association is one of the best business associations in town. They're super active, and knowing that Spectrum is coming, they're talking about what they're going to do with this big hill here.
That's awesome.
Putting potential switchbacks in, or ways that we can get the residents, the rooftops up there to get access to the water. I also know, like, you know, there's 555 Monroe, where there's a lot of activities that are happening here along the skate park. There's a lot of cool things that are coming down the pipeline that, like, the Parks Department of Grand Rapids is working on.
Connecting the trails.
They're exactly. They're moving into
renewing the river. Yeah, so much awesome things.
There's
happening.
a lot. So I think we're in a good spot. That's what led me to picking this particular location. And we have built-in customers, right? Because we're at 601 Bond Apartments. We're right across
There's a few
the street
condos in there. I don't know if you knew that.
But yeah. There's we got a bunch of apartments here. They got some condos over there at Icon and Bond.
Yeah.
And it's just, so it's great. Yeah, we've been getting to know our neighbors, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I mean, you've mentioned earlier the pandemic. So how has Noodlepig adapted? You kind of started after that kind of was phased out in the last 6 months, but how has that changed kind of your thinking and how you do business?
Yeah, you know, when I developed the idea, this was, you know, pre-COVID. COVID happened, and I was able to refine the idea further, which helped. I think I was already on the path of being more of a fast casual setup, even though we are creating more really gourmet ramen.
To go almost, right?
Yeah, to go. I mean, it takes forever for us to make every component, but the actual assembly of the bowl is fast. knowing that, I was able to, the challenge is like, okay, how fast can we build this bowl that still looks really pretty and beautiful and flavorful? But so that was the idea, is that I don't think ramen's really in the fast casual market. So that's where I wanted to take ramen, is that fast casual market. With that, those are the ones that thrived during COVID, during those shutdowns, because it's really easy for pickup, takeout, delivery. So I knew that was a big part of the business I wanted to focus on. But also the thing is that we don't do table service here. We're considering to do table service, but we don't really have front of house and back of house workers. We have one house. I've really broken some norms here with this restaurant. I've worked in the front of the house and I've worked in the back of the house, and there's an animosity that happens in a restaurant where I think partially because the roles are different, but also what fuels that animosity is that the pay is different. The front of the house is generally paid very low, almost like a non-livable wage, but they're expected to make their wage with all tips.
Tips, yeah.
The back of the house is a higher wage, but there's 0 tips coming back to them. So when it's really busy, what happens is that you got the front of the house and they're trying to elevate their tips. They're gonna make out really well as long as the service is good, the food's coming out. So they're putting a lot of pressure in the kitchen. Hey, get my stuff out faster, or can you redo this, or whatever you're yelling at the kitchen. And the tickets are kind of going nuts in the back of the house. And those guys are just like, hey, I get paid the same rate, whether it's busy or it's not, and they're just busting their butt trying to get it all done, and also taking some heat from the front of the house, right?
Yeah.
And what I think that what really rubs salt in the wound is when the front of the house servers will hide from their guests to count their tips. And where are they hiding? They're hiding in the kitchen. So they're counting the money in front of the guys and girls that are
might not be getting as much, yeah.
So they're not getting any piece of that. And so that's a little bit like, so I've seen that. I've worked in those kind of environments where it's like, it's a little distasteful. So what I want to do differently, which is, again, it's tough to break a norm and to get other people to believe in that.
Yeah.
But we do tip pooling. We share tips evenly based on hours worked in a pay period. We've been able to elevate everyone's pay by $5 to $6 an hour. It's crazy. And so now there's no longer a front or back of the house. Our line cooks are on stage. They are they are talking and engaging with the customer. Even like the dishwashers coming out and helping with tables. We're all pulling our weight to.
It's a team.
As a team. I call it it's our band. That's why I call them rock stars. We are one man. You pull any member out of the band out, like you pull the drummer, it's not going to sound the same. Every role is vital. The dishwasher, whoever comes in and does prep during the day, like every role is vital. That's why everyone gets a chunk of the tips. So we know that like the weekends are going to be higher tips, right? But we lump all of those tips into a 2-week pay period, and out of that pot, based on hours worked, that is your percentage that everyone takes. So it's the fairest way I could find to do it. It's
I like it.
Very Japanese way approach to making everyone equal. Like there's no job above or below anyone. And I always tell everybody, like, look, I'll never ask you to do something I'm not comfortable doing myself.
Sure.
So I believe that's solid. I want to be that type of leader, and I feel like the people that I'm attracting like that style. And I'm also a drama-free zone here too. So I don't like that. Everyone's worked in a place where it's just been. It's always like maybe that one person, or maybe there's that vibe. And it's just like a dark. It's like a heavy feeling, and I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be fun. I want everyone to come in and be excited about working here.
Yeah.
And because that transfers onto the guest.
The consumer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've already gotten so many compliments from guests going, as I'm out here, I'm just checking on tables. They're like, dude, how are you doing this? Like everyone's so happy. They're smiling. They're happy to work with each other. And I look up and I get to see through their eyes, and I'm like, yeah, sure, that is awesome. So I give those kudos right back to the team. I'm like, guys, you guys are killing it. You guys are rock stars. And they are definitely performing as rock stars, which is great. So now we're talking about potentially, this is not final.
Future plans.
Potential plans of maybe turn this into a table service situation. Because I know that people like to be wine and dined. I think that, some people would like to be able to get reservations to come in and maybe don't like the lines and want to deal with the lines. So we thought, sure, it's not much more for us to do that. And so we're already engaging with the guests already. So just taking it from here to there for the food and
not a big deal.
No,
right?
Easy. And I pitched the idea to everybody, and they love it. They love the idea. Because I think what will actually happen is that if we are doing table service, people might stay for an extra cocktail or two.
Sure.
Naturally, the tips might be higher. they love the idea of getting, earning more. But having those tips being shared is really helpful because the people in the back of the house will know we all rally together as one team. We're all like, this is truly customer service focused.
Yeah.
How do we give the best service possible? And then again, it's very Japanese mentality. There's a Japanese term called, it says, "Okyakusama wa kami-sama desu." Means Okyakusama is the customer, and the customer is, and kami-sama is God. The customer is God.
Wow.
In their mind, they're like, they are up there. Now, it's similar to like the American version of, the customer is always right.
Yeah.
This is almost like God is like infallible, right? This is almost you worship them. And so they approach it going, we're going to, really high praise and put the customer on the pedestal when they come in. And so I'm trying to adopt that same model here.
Well, they're the most important part of running a business is having someone to serve. Right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, really, a restaurant's really just two parts. Getting the food right and having amazing food, and then customer service.
People talking about it, and reviews are everything right now.
Oh,
right?
they are, yeah. So luckily right now the reviews that we've gotten, the negative ones are just, hey, parking stuff, or we were too busy one day when they came in. I'll take those,
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything about being too busy. That's kind of a good thing. We want to be busy. But hearing those comments, I'm like, oh, okay. What I'm hearing is that people want table service. They want to be able to book a reservation. They have a time slot. They can come in. So I think especially with West Michigan, where we are right now, we're highly considering that potential.
I think that's a good idea.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So speaking of Grand Rapids, right? So
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite things besides working here? What are some of your favorite things to do?
In Grand Rapids, I like to golf, but I'm not very good at it.
Okay, me neither.
No, I think
that's still fun though, right?
Dude, the golf course it's like a magical. It's like where the laws don't exist.
Yeah.
For example, it's like you
can
get
drink and or drive a golf cart.
Right. You can consume an alcoholic beverage while operating a moving vehicle.
Yeah.
They give you a cup holder. In fact, at certain golf courses, they'll have some young person drive out more booze for you.
Yeah.
Find you on the golf course to give you more booze. That's crazy to me, right? I'm like, nowhere. It's like it's a magical bubble where certain laws don't exist there, and you could take it anywhere. You could take it in the woods. You could take it in the anywhere, and you could take the beer anywhere. The other thing is like which is, I mean, a little taboo, but like, you can see grown men in the woods urinating on a tree, and you're like, oh, it's fine. That's totally normal. And outside of that bubble, you'd be arrested for indecent exposure.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's expected there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
like there's one
well,
bathroom in the entire place.
Yeah, no, like it's being occupied by somebody, like no, like so. I find golf really fascinating just for that. But like this, it's serene, it's usually beautifully landscaped. It's an escape too, and it's fun to go with your buddies. It's just that one shot that you hit really well that brings you back every time. But I love it for all of those. The whole experience is fun. I don't know, like what else? I mean, I think the trails are great. Grand Rapids is a cool city. We're like 30 minutes from everything.
Sure.
Amazing.
I get irritated when I have to drive more than 20 minutes for whatever.
It's
right?
funny because I get people from Detroit coming over here too for the ramen, and they're like, it's a different mentality there. So here it's like, everything's within 15-minute drive. So if it's 20 minutes, it's like, oh man, it's a little bit too long. A small backup on 131, we're like griping. In Detroit, like they'll drive 45 minutes for a good restaurant, and there's like no problem. They're just used to doing it. They're used to more traffic, more people, and so it is a different mentality when they come over here. They're like, oh, no problem. I think we're changing though. Grand Rapids is growing
super fast. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of development happening. We're getting a lot of transplants coming in here. I mean, I'm meeting a lot of people there from like California and from even Chicago, some bigger cities that are coming into Grand Rapids, not only because there's these jobs, but the cost of living is better. We have a really cool downtown. We're like this small, big city. It's
home prices are low. Schools are really good. We have a good medical system.
Oh my gosh, medical model. They keep adding more.
Yeah.
We got U of M, we got Michigan State, you got GVSU. They're all like right there on Michigan. It's killer. So it is a good hub. What I've noticed and talk about, because you do real estate, right? So one thing I've always predicted, and I don't know if you agree with this concept, but every big city has like this loop, right? They have a loop. Chicago's a loop, and like these. So I look at Grand Rapids, and I'm like, okay, if we continue to grow, I'm looking at, we've kind of built a bit of a loop, right? So because we have 96 that kind of curves around, we have 131, and now we have M6.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like everything that's inside that will start to become more and more dense, populated, and that'll be like the hub. And then we'll start to see stuff growing outside of that loop a bit, with the suburbs and all that stuff going in. So I'm like, if we can get inside that loop now, and again, I don't know when that'll come, but I'm like, I'm already feel like I start to see it happening a bit, where you're seeing, I'm seeing neighborhoods that were, not as popular. Now they're becoming hip.
Oh man, totally true.
Right.
I actually grew up about 3 miles away from here, and we would ride our bikes through downtown. And one of the games we would play was how long could you ride through skywalks and inside buildings before you get kicked out by security.
Oh my gosh.
And we all day we could spend in the skywalks down here. No one would ever say anything because most of the buildings were empty.
Yeah.
And some of the neighborhoods that I didn't want to walk through, now they sell $300,000, $400,000 condos in those neighborhoods. So Grand Rapids is changing rapidly, and it's exciting to see. I mean, just the downtown area has grown so much in the last 10 years. I know a lot of people wouldn't even recognize it if they came back.
They don't. I barely recognize
Yeah.
it. I'll put my head down for a minute, and because I have 4 kids at home, and so we get busy doing
Me
stuff.
too.
And do you really?
Yeah.
And so but then I'll make it back downtown, and then I'm like, whoa, when did they put that building here?
Yeah.
Like,
And it happens quick.
It does. And I
Yep.
spend more time downtown than my wife does. So then Kim will go down, and she'll be like, I'm lost. What is this? I remember even Studio Park being built. We're like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff that's happening.
Go down Fulton Street. There's a new building every other month, it seems like. Yeah.
It's just a lot. And so right behind us too, Spectrum is building
Yep.
their whole thing. I mean, you can just count the cranes that are up in the sky here that are building. So we are definitely in growth mode, I feel like, in Grand Rapids, and I'm starting to see it. Yeah. So and a lot of our friends that we're seeing are like, again, from out of state.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see.
So you mentioned future plans. Have you thought about collaborating with other Grand Rapids businesses? Long Road, who I have a friend that owns Long Road. They've done some collaborations with other breweries and different types of bourbon with beer infused in them. Have you thought about doing any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always down for any
Okay.
potential, collaboration, partnerships. I can't. I'm not sure. Nothing pops off the top of my head of how I could potentially collaborate, but I'm always open to any and all potentials.
Yeah.
With us, because we're only we got 3 months under our belt. We're into our 4th month. My first goal is just get our legs put underneath us, right? And let's. I want to make sure that the recipes are sound. I haven't even added everything I wanted to the menu yet. I'm just slowly trickling those in. But with that comes with potential collaboration. What do those features look like? What are we doing? There's a lot of cool things we could do. Because we have a liquor license. We do boba. We have ramen. We make our own noodles. We could do a lot of fun stuff. And whether those collaborations are maybe we're bringing some of their stuff in here and infusing it with what we're doing. Or maybe they're taking, I had one idea where I thought, well, if other restaurants that are, a little bit different vibe that they, different vibe than us instead of a fast casual, they're more sit down, but they wanted to put a ramen on their menu, we could essentially build the ramen where it could be very easy for them to just
Slap it together.
put it together,
Yeah.
and sell a Noodlepig ramen. And what we could do is build in that cost of 3 kids fed, so they could jump in and join in that philanthropy. And so they could say, yeah, if you order this Noodlepig ramen on our menu, we could feed 300 kids. We're feeding 300 kids as well. And if I can get other restaurants to jump on board with it, that'd be great, because of course we're selling our ramen, but also we're getting more people to jump on board with helping to, feed more children, which is great.
It's awesome.
Someone asked me oh, what if someone steals that idea, starts feeding hungry kids with their restaurant?
Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that
then
means
600 kids get fed, right?
Yeah, I'm that's great. So I think, so I think that's a lot of fun. The hard thing now is just because since COVID, after COVID, labor costs and food costs are really just all over the place. I mentioned my pro forma earlier today, right? I had a pro forma, which is basically this glorified profit loss statement that I was using to just go, okay, this is the idea of what it's going to look like when we start operating. I broke that thing every way you can imagine.
I think any good entrepreneur will. Yeah.
So I need to now go back and re-engineer that thing and make it fit, So,
Okay.
But we're still committed. We're still committed to feeding 300 kids. We're still committed to paying our employees really solidly with the tips added in. Like we are actually a lot of my employees tell me they're like, you're the highest paid restaurant right now in town, and I'm like, how do we get the word out?
It's good that they know that.
Yeah, it was good. And I think that, and then getting paid really well, plus having this work environment that's solid and a fun work culture, I think those are all really, really powerful. And it's really powerful to hear that from them. That they, and then they're like, hey, can I get more hours? They want to be here more, which is awesome.
I think that's going to translate a lot of different ways, right? People are going to be happy to work here. They're going to stay longer. They're going to do a better job. The clients are going to get treated better and be able to get better reviews. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So,
that's great.
So you're here on Bond Street. What's the actual address?
We're 601 Bond.
Okay.
And that's actually the name of the apartments.
Okay.
So we are, Bond is actually the street that's
right.
Our doors actually face Trowbridge.
Okay.
So we're facing south on Trowbridge. I can see the highway, So when you're driving on the highway, you can actually see our building and see our sign. So yeah, but this whole building is I think, I forgot how many, 27 apartments or something like that.
Okay.
That are in here. I'm getting that wrong. Don't quote me on that. But, but 601 Bond, Northwest. I love it. It's a great little spot. The river's right there. We could see it.
Super close. We actually, as a real estate team, want to get downtown. So that's one of our goals. Is to move our office downtown. But finding a space that fits us is the challenge.
It is, it's key.
But, with parking, right?
Parking is always a challenge, and I think that's but as we get into bigger and bigger, we're just gonna have to navigate that, and people are just gonna have to, deal with it, right? But but you have Uber, you got Lyft.
They're changing, yeah.
And the Dash,
scooters.
Well, the scooters are cool. I didn't know that the Dash is free.
Yeah.
It goes, and actually literally goes north and south right here on Monroe. And the stop is right here on Trowbridge and
that's perfect.
It's literally right there. It drops you off right there. So I can hop on that and get downtown. I did it with the family the other day. We were parked over here because it's easier parking by us than it is downtown proper. And just hopped on the Dash, went a couple blocks, got off. This is during the whole World of Winter. That was a lot of fun.
Oh man, I was down here for that. We did the gnomes. We took videos. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So there was an event called the Hungry Hippos, Human Hungry Hippos event.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so I was the MC for that.
Okay.
Because that was in my previous job, the Sport and Social Club. That's we developed that with DGRI, that event for World of Winter, and so it was nice. They were really nice to call me back to ask if I wanted to come back and MC. So I had the privilege of being able to do that and engage with the families that were doing it. It was great, and the weather was perfect. So I've done it in blizzards before, and it was horrible. So the weather was great, and it's just fun. And it was a workout, and you don't even know it. So it's just a good activities to get out and really embrace the winter. The biggest thing for winter, I've noticed, especially in America or Michigan, is that we don't really embrace it enough, and everyone's pretty much hibernates.
Waiting for summer.
They do, right? And I hate winter. I say hate. That's a hard word. I like summer more than I do winter. But I'm also envious of these other countries, you get these Nordic or Scandinavian countries, or even Canada. They really embrace the cold, and they do festivals, and they're outside, and they're doing stuff. And so, with this whole World of Winter, this huge festival that we have going on with all these events is great. We're getting people out, and when I'm out in that crowd doing these things, I feel wow, it feels like we're not even in Grand Rapids anymore. It feels like we're in one of those countries that embraces winter. Yeah. And and there's a saying
that's new.
It is new, yeah, and I think that's awesome.
So our real estate team for the last 4 years has sponsored the Great Skate downtown at Rosa Park Circle, where they bring the Griffins in to skate with kids for 24 hours.
Oh,
so,
nice. Is that after the game, or is that?
Yeah, after the game. They start at 10 o'clock Saturday night, and they go until 10 o'clock Sunday night straight, and they'll bring a different player, 2-3 players out every hour to skate with kids. And I usually take the late shifts because nobody else wants to, but it's fun to see, downtown at that hour, and it's great to see people outdoors and actually enjoying, our seasons, right?
That's great. Yeah. So so kudos to DGRI to really continue to develop that concept to get people out and
Yeah.
out about and coming downtown and hanging out. And so it's just, I think that's just a great vibe for Grand Rapids. And I think it's one of the draws that when people come here, if they're new, they're like, oh, this is cool. If they're visiting, they're like, this is a really cool spot. Actually, we had some people from Toronto that came to help with the Hungry Hippos event. And they're like, this is the cool downtown, and like the event is cool, and there were other activities going on that same day, and they were really just taken back about how I keep using the word cool, but it is cool.
Yeah. What else to say?
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
It's a cool city in the winter.
So what are your hours here at Noodlepig?
Yeah, currently our hours are every day of the week right now.
Okay.
Open from,
And you're probably here every one of those hours, huh?
oh my gosh, yeah, I live here.
All right.
I live here right now. So we're open every day of the week from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night.
Okay.
We're actually dabbling with the idea of staying open on Friday and Saturday nights beyond
With your liquor
9,
license. Yeah.
till midnight, and stay open till then. We might switch to a different menu, keep the fryer going. We have amazing fries. Honestly, I tell you, so not to toot our own horn, but like everything I designed on our menu is really meant to be like award-winning. So our French fries alone are, people are telling me it's like they've never had French fries like this before. And these are Japanese fries. And I toss them, you've heard like the term crack fries, or like what, and I can't use that term, but whatever, I'll use it. So these are like these beautifully coated, crispy fries. We take these fries and I toss them in furikake powder that we make in-house. Basically, furikake is a Japanese herb blend, super umami. Toss those guys, and we have some really fun dipping sauces. We put it in a nice little pedestal. You get a good amount of it. People come in just for the fries, and it's a showstopper. It's great. We also have a sandwich on our menu, and it's called the Katsusando XL. We take a full-on pork cutlet, deep fry that bad boy. Take a brioche bun, I butter it and toast it. We make a quick pickled cucumber, Japanese pickled cucumber salad that goes in this thing. Mayonnaise, tonkatsu sauce, with a little bit of cabbage and some shoga, which is pickled ginger. This thing, like, you never had flavors like this before, and I think people who come in, they're like, some people say that's the best thing on our menu. So I'm pretty excited about what we can continue to push out. So I'm developing now the nighttime meal menu. What does that look like? The fries will be on there. We have a shrimp tempura, fun appetizer. So, but definitely we'll have a whole cocktail hour that we'll be able to knock out as well. From that 9 to midnight on the weekends, and that's when I think we'll turn the lights down. You'll see that we have some cool lights that are here. I'll turn the music up. We could change the atmosphere completely in here and make it like a fun little cocktail lounge.
Nice.
Do some real true boozy boba cocktails where we're mixing those things up and just serving them. I think that'd be a killer. So yeah, we're dabbling with that idea as well. So
taking that mixology skill and adding it to your restaurant. That's awesome.
Yeah, it'd be fun, I think, And I have a bunch of these fun flavors I want to just introduce to Grand Rapids. And it's just a matter of just getting it on the menu and getting it out there.
So Chris, is there anything else that you wish I would have covered that we didn't?
The only thing is that we're hiring still.
Awesome.
We're growing.
Okay.
Again, like we talked about growing our hours as well. So I'm looking for some great shift managers, energetic shift managers. I'm looking for kind of all departments. We cross-train as well. So, but always looking for some solid rock stars that want to join the force. Really, I need a break. I need time to also start working on the company, on the marketing and some things like that, as well as I'm also seeking out the next location.
Yeah.
So the beautiful thing is that when people come in and they're working here, I like to hire from within as we start to scale. So who's going to help me open the next place? And so we're definitely in growth mode right now. So looking for any and all rock stars that.
That's awesome. I hope I can help with that.
Yeah,
so,
appreciate it.
I mean, who wouldn't want to work in a place like this with the culture that you have talked about and the food that you have and the boss that I'm sure you are. So,
I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing your story with us. And it's exciting to see such a unique, interesting place here coming to Grand Rapids, just bringing diversity and culture to downtown. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun, and thanks for stopping at the shop.
Yeah, this is great. I love all the LEDs. That's definitely my style. yeah, that's something that I like to do in my workspace too, and I appreciate that. So
awesome.
Thanks for working on the ambiance, and this is a great place.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
So
yeah, cheers.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Small Talk Podcast with the Smallegan Real Estate team. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our earlier episodes.